I want to show you what wholemeal dough looks like when it's mixed. Okay, this is quite different from a white dough. Wholemeal flour sucks up much more water than a white dough because of the bran and the germ in there. So in here I have got stone ground wholemeal flour. That might suck up more or less water than a roller milled wholemeal flour. So this is warm water. You could use cooler water if you've got a longer time or you want to allow your dough a longer time to develop. You could use cool water, no problem at all. So in I'm going to go with 340 grams of water. Now 340 grams of water is about how much I normally add to a white dough to get it fully mixed. So I'm expecting that with 340 I'm going to need a little bit more than that for this dough to be fully mixed at the end and fully hydrated. Going in with my hand like a claw at first, mixing that water into the flour. Okay, so I feel now that it could possibly be mixed, continue to be mixed like this, and it would pick up those dry bits, but that would result in a very dry dough. So I'm going to add a little bit more, and I don't normally measure, but just for the purposes of showing you, I'm going to measure in how much I'm adding. So that's another 30 grams, so we're taking it to 370 grams of water. And that feels much better. But I really do feel that actually this could take even more, because what you want with a wholemeal dough is plenty of water that whilst it sits and rests before I do the rounds of stretch and fold on this dough, I want it to sit and rest and absorb all of that water and get fully hydrated. So whilst it looks like it's fully hydrated now, I'm actually going to add a bit more water so that the bran can suck that up as it rests. So I'm adding another 30 grams, which is going to take it to 400 grams of water to 500 grams of the wholemeal flour. I'm just going to add that, squeeze that water through now. Can you see the action that I'm using? I'm bringing the dough in from one side of the bowl over to meet the other half of the dough and punching my hand down into that dough, and that gives it a really good squeeze, gets the water really in there, hydrates the flour well. That's feeling more like it. So this has made a really lovely soft dough now. I'm just going to continue to mix it to make sure that flour's fully hydrated. I don't need a wholemeal dough. I use the stretch and fold method because I find that develops the gluten just as successfully, but it treats the dough gently. So it's been 10 minutes since I mixed the dough. So this is what it looks like. Okay, lovely and soft. When I stretch it up, it's lovely and stretchy at this point. Okay, so I've not done any stretch and folds or any kneading as yet. So the first round of stretch and fold, I just take it from one side and fold it over the other, quarter turn of the bowl, stretch it up, fold it over, quarter turn, stretch and fold, stretch and fold. Okay, can you see now? I've only done a few stretches and folds. There's no way I can lift that as much as I was before, stretching it with that first stretch. It's now starting to resist me. I can feel the strength building in that dough, and I don't want to stretch it to breaking point because that would work against what I'm trying to achieve here, which is stretching the gluten but not breaking it. Okay, so there we go. That's the first round of stretch and fold. It's actually been 45 minutes now since the first round of stretch and fold. So I'm going to come in and do another round of stretch and fold now. So lovely and airy, as you can see, hopefully. Stretch it up, fold it over. Quarter turn, stretch and fold. Now this time it won't need as many stretches and folds as it needed the first time. It just needs gentle stretching and folding, and you can see it's nice and tight now. And if I stretch it anymore, it'll break. So that gluten's developing really nicely. So I can just leave it alone. What I tend to do is bring it together in a little circle of dough. I'm going to leave it now, let it rest and let it ferment. So probably it's quite cool in this room, 18 degrees centigrade. So probably an hour will be sufficient to let it rise and ferment, and then I'll shape it. It's actually been 2 hours since I last did a stretch and fold of this dough. So you can see it's really grown, it's full of air. Under there, that lovely honeycomb fermentation, perfect now for shaping. So I'm just going to put a little bit of semolina on the surface. Scrape the dough out, and I'm going to shape it for a tin. So I've lightly oiled this loaf tin. This is a 2-pound loaf tin. Will take up to 1 kilogram of dough, and this dough will weigh about 900 grams. So cat ears at the top, into the centre, cat ears down the bottom and into the centre, and then roll the top down, fold the sides in and roll down. And there you've got a lovely tight dough that's got good surface tension, so that's going to prove now and grow into this tin. I'll leave it to prove now for at least half an hour, possibly an hour. So this is the loaf now ready for the oven. It can be quite hard to tell when your loaf is ready, and it can take practice, this bit of knowing when to put your loaf in. So I hope you can see how much it's grown since I shaped it. It's barely over the top of the tin here. You don't want it to rise too high before you put it in the oven. It's going to need some energy when it has oven spring. So oven spring is when it grows up to 30% more in the oven. So if it's too high, chances are you have overproved it, and the gluten will have weakened, and when you put it in the oven it will deflate. Whereas this one is ready for the oven now. So if I feel it and put my hand on it gently, I can feel that it's uniformly airy all over. It's not denser in the centre than it is at the sides. So I know that it's going to have beautiful oven spring, and it's going to rise up in the oven and bake into a nice light wholemeal loaf. When I put it in, I'm going to steam the oven, and there is a video that you can watch about how to steam your oven and why it's important. So if you don't know about steaming your oven, really good idea to go and watch that video. So here's the loaf. It's fresh out the oven, reaching 91 degrees centigrade internal temperature, so I know it's baked. It had 35 minutes at 220 degrees centigrade. Looks beautifully golden all over. You can see where it's done a natural burst at its weakest point at the top of the tin. It's always going to sound heavier and not as hollow as a white. So use your other senses. Does it look baked? Is it an even colour? And an internal thermometer like this really makes a difference, because it tells you whether or not the centre has reached that critical temperature of 88 degrees. I always let it go to 90, and that it's definitely baked. So let it cool now completely before slicing into it. The gels, the crumb, needs to set inside this loaf, and it'll only do that as the water evaporates from the inside out, and it properly forms its crumb. If you cut it now, it would look like you'd underbaked it, so you need to leave it to cool for at least an hour before you slice into it.